Matt Butler, Executive Vice President of Hilco Global. Thank you for joining us once again.
Delighted to be here.
Good to see you.
Thanks.
For those of us who are not familiar with Hilco, give us a little bit of background.
Well, Hilco Global is a privately held diversified financial services business. We operate in 11 countries in terms of our offices. We do business in 65 countries. We're basically, I think, one of the world's preeminent authorities on the left-hand side of the balance sheet. So anything to do with assets, valuing them, buying and selling them, investing in them, we do all those kinds of things.
Okay, specifically today though, we are here to talk about your role and the outcome of the ABI Bankruptcy Reform Commission. Now, first of all, there's so many decisions coming out of this, so many important decisions coming out of this. Talk to us a little bit about small and medium businesses and how they were affected and what you decided.
Well, I think one of the most important recommendations to come out of the commission were a series of principles that we've proposed that deal with small and medium businesses. They're really the backbone of the economy. They're the ones that provide the tax bases across the country. They provide millions of jobs across the country. And they represent more than 90% of the cases that are filed every year in the bankruptcy courts. And that whole system is not working well. A lot of people are waiting to file, or they don't file at all. They're not trying to rehabilitate themselves because the system has become broken. Costs too much, it takes too long. And the outcomes are so uncertain. So we've adopted a series of principles that will streamline and provide certainty and foster and encourage people to come to Chapter 11 more early in their life cycle when they can be rehabilitated, as opposed to simply turning the keys over to the creditors.
And when you talk about 90%, that's amazing.
It's a really important part of this. The headlines tend to go to the mega cases and the very large transactions. But the day-to-day work of the federal bankruptcy system is to deal with small and medium business enterprises, family-owned companies, closely held companies, privately held companies. And we need to do a much better job of reducing barriers to access and promoting rehabilitation.
And of course, one of the other major issues grabbing headlines out of this is the whole venue issue. Now, this was a very highly esteemed group of people on the commission with various backgrounds and great expertise. So this was not a decision made lightly. What can you tell us about this? Well,
I think we reported on the pros and cons of venue reform. The Commission did not propose any changes in the current law. There is a lot of passion and a lot of politics associated with both sides of the arguments about whether venue ought to be changed or whether the current venue system is appropriate. From my perspective, I think that one of the services the Commission did was to lay out, I think eloquently, after a lot of work, a public hearing held in Texas at which we had both protagonists and antagonists come and give testimony, and all the things, laid out both sides of the arguments. At the end of the day, the consensus on the Commission was not to make any recommendations in this area.
Now, this hasn't been looked at since 1997, so it's not something that happens all that often. What was unprecedented about this particular report?
Well, I think there are a number of things I think that were, very important about this report. I think one of them is that the report was in fact adopted, the final report and the 241 odd recommendations. The report as a report was adopted on a consensus basis by all 22 of the commissioners, 18 voting commissioners, and the 22 commissioners that involved. That doesn't generally happen. Lots of times there is dissent, lots of opposition. Things are reported out, 10-9 and 8-7 and things like that. This was a consensus report. The recommendations that we're presenting to Congress have consensus recommendations from 22 very different people. As I said, 18 voting commissioners with very different backgrounds, very different constituencies that they had represented over time on points of view. And so I think that provides a starting place for Congress to really understand, and for the restructuring community and frankly the national business community to really take this to the next level and try and get this enacted in statute.
And then on that subject, what do you see as the timeline as far as going before Congress?
Well, I think Congress, I suspect, has already held some hearings. I think they'll hold additional hearings this year. I'm not a good prognosticator on when things will actually go on. Legislation takes time to get moving forward. I think there's always going to be a healthy debate before. This document was released last year, at the end of the year, and the idea is for there to be a healthy debate and discussion. But I think there are things that Congress could do right away that I don't think are controversial, like the recommendations I talked about for small and medium business enterprises, which I think could make an enormous difference and preserve jobs right now. You could look at the Commission's report and the action Congress could take on some of these things as being the Jobs Preservation and Creation Act of 2015.
So will we be seeing you personally going before Congress?
I don't know that I'll be before Congress. I think there'll be representatives of the Commission who've already testified before Congress, and I think that we'll be well represented by our reporter and our Commission chairs.
Okay, Jack, always great to see you.
It's great seeing you.
Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye-bye.